Hi everyone, welcome to my new YouTube channel, Tech Talk with Samir. In this channel, I'll be posting videos about anything and everything related to technology in my life. In the past, I had made a few such videos for my personal channel, but I decided to make a brand new channel dedicated just for that. This will hopefully make sure that those who subscribe to my channel for my tech videos don't get bored of my vlogs. I also re-uploaded all my old tech-related videos from my personal channel onto this one so you have one place to see them all. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel to help me boost my ego a little bit. Please, just do it. I beg you, please. So, 10 gigabit Ethernet. Do you need it? Short answer, no, you probably don't need it. But just because you don't need something doesn't mean that you can't want it. And I wanted it. So back in early 2019, when the world was a different place, I had made a video where I revamped my home network to take advantage of a bunch of Cat5e cables that I discovered in my attic that were running to all the phone jacks in the house. I later made an update video where I upgraded all my network gear to Unifi gear to make it a seamless, reliable experience. I'll post a link to both of those videos in the description below in case you haven't seen them. In the update video, I mentioned that at some point I may want to think about upgrading to a 10 gigabit network. One reason why that was a difficult decision is that 10 gigabit switches are expensive, like very expensive. For example, if I wanted to get a unified 10 gig switch along with all the cabling and the network cards to make it all work, I was probably looking at over $1,000. And for the very limited usage cases where I would actually benefit from that, it was very hard to justify that kind of money. That all changed recently when I discovered a switch by MikroTik, or MikroTik. I don't really know how it's pronounced. I'm just gonna refer to it as MikroTik. It's the MikroTik CRS305. It's a 5-port switch, 4 of which are SFP plus 10 gig ports, and it costs about $140 on Amazon. The 5th port is a Gigabit RJ45 port, but it's actually a PoE port, so you can actually power the device with power over Ethernet. It does, however, come included with a power adapter that you can use to power the device if you wish to do it that way. Although it's a small switch, it's actually a managed smart switch. But if playing around with network configurations doesn't excite you, you can always just use it as an unmanaged dumb switch, which is what I wanted. After discovering the switch, there's been several instances where I've added it to my cart on Amazon and then eventually backed out. Until recently when I finally decided to follow through with it. The reason why I had to contemplate on the decision is that the switch is just one part of the whole 10 gig experience. I had to invest on cabling as well as 10 gig network cards for all my devices, which can all add up. So I went to the drawing board to lay out exactly how I wanted to do this. So here's my situation. I have a Synology NAS as my primary storage device. I also made a free NAS device which serves as a secondary NAS, and I also have a Windows machine which I use as a file sharing device as well. In addition, I have my workstation computer which I use to access all those devices. So these are essentially the 4 devices that I would want to have 10 gig speeds. And to do that, I need to equip all 4 of these devices with 10 gig network cards. And normally 10 gig network cards cost anywhere from $100 to $200 depending on what type of ports are in the back. However, if you look on eBay, there are plenty of people selling very inexpensive 10 gig network cards. So I decided to pick up 4 Mellanox Connect X3 cards from eBay for around $40 each. These Mellanox cards have one SFP plus port in the back, which is more than enough for my needs. And it's just a quick and easy install into the PCI Express ports of all my devices. So going back to my layout, 3 out of my 4 devices are actually located in the same closet as where the switch is gonna be. So the cheapest way to connect those 3 devices to the switch is just to get short direct attached copper cables with SFP plus modules on each end. These cost under $20 each and they're just plug and play. But what about my workstation, which is in a completely different part of the house? This is the part that was my biggest worry when it came to my ideas of 10 gigabit home networking. If you've seen my initial setup video of my home network, you may recall that I had to pull a network cable through the attic to reach my workstation. I did that by using an old coax cable as fishing wire to pull the cable. The cable I ran at the time was a Cat5e cable, which seemed like a great idea given that I was only running a gigabit network at the time. But turns out Cat5e cables are not rated for 10 gigabit networks. That means I had to run a new cable. And to do that, I had to go into the attic. And the attic is a very scary place. After contemplating a bit, I decided to put on my big boy hat and slowly head up there. With a weapon, of course. I then drilled a 3/4 inch hole through some studs and pulled the cable through. This time it was a Cat6 cable. Cat6 cables are rated for 10 gig for up to 55 meters. I needed about 30, so it was more than enough for my needs. Now came the next dilemma. The cable I ran was terminated with RJ45. You may know these as Ethernet ports. Actually, ports would be where you plug them into. What would you call the ends of it? Anyways, you know what I mean. This is what they look like. So I had to purchase 2 SFP Plus to RJ45 adapters, one for each end of the cable. These adapters aren't cheap, they're about $40 each. I then plugged in one end of the cable to my computer and the other end of the cable to my switch. Once I had both of these connected, I had completed my actual setup. The whole setup costed me about $475, which is a lot of money, but it's less than half of what I would have had to spend if I didn't find cheaper alternatives. So going back to my initial question, do you need 10 gigabit Ethernet at home? The answer once again is no, you don't need it. Most businesses don't even have 10 gigabit to their workstations, so you definitely don't need it. However, in my specific case, I do a lot of photo and video editing directly off of my storage devices. So I end up transferring a lot of large files back and forth between devices. And having a 10 gigabit network makes a big difference when it comes to transferring files. It's almost like having solid state drive performance over the network. There's definitely a few improvements that could be made in my home setup to make it more optimal. Like for example, I can use a SSD caching drive on my Synology to make it faster. But even as things are, I'm getting significantly higher speeds than I was getting with my gigabit network. There are times when I'm transferring files from my FreeNAS server and I'm getting over 900 megabytes per second. And for those of you who don't know, 1 byte is 8 bits, so that's over 7 gigabits per second. It does eventually slow back down once the caches hit their limit, but it still significantly reduces transfer times. Another thing to point out is that since I've broken out of my Unifi system with this new switch, I can no longer see traffic statistics for this switch on my Unifi controller, which is only a problem if you care about that stuff. I personally don't care, so it doesn't really matter to me. One common question I get is, does 10 gigabit networking improve my internet browsing speeds? The answer is no, it does not improve your internet browsing experience at all. The speed you get from your internet provider will almost always be the reason why you get the speeds you get. Unless of course if you have a really slow Wi-Fi setup at home. In that case, just plug in a regular Ethernet cable to your modem and you'll be just fine. I'm gonna be putting Amazon affiliate links to everything I've shown in this video in the description below. If you choose to buy anything using these links, I'll get a small kickback to help me bring more content to you. It doesn't cost you anything extra. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. I'll see you on the next one.